Alright guys, as some of you may know, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I've been searching all over Netflix to watch Dragon Ball episodes, but unfortunately Netflix here just doesn't have them. But you know which version of Netflix does? Netflix Japan. Some of you might be wondering, how on earth am I accessing Netflix Japan, right? Well, that's where NordVPN comes in. NordVPN is one of the top VPN services out there. It allows you to mask your location and browse securely, which is perfect for protecting your privacy. Plus, NordVPN can basically change your location to anywhere in the world with just a few clicks. So it's just as easy as that. That's how I'm able to access Netflix Japan and binge all of the Dragon Ball episodes that I can fathom. It's not just about watching international shows, however. NordVPN adds an extra layer of security basically as you're browsing, so your personal information stays safe and your online activity remains private. If you want to unlock more content and protect your privacy online, head over to nordvpn.com/Harariboy to get over 70% off a 2-year subscription plus 3 months free. And if you don't like it, you can cancel within 30 days and get a money back guarantee. It is worth the peace of mind and extra content you'll have access to. Thank you. Hello and welcome everyone to another exciting episode of the Harariboy Podcast. I'm your host Harariboy, and this week we have quite a few topics to talk about, so let's go ahead and dive right in. In today's episode, we are going to look at some of the Federal Reserve remarks with Scott Bessent, who he thinks should replace the Fed chair and what's wrong with the Federal Reserve today. We're also going to take a look at the rate cuts and whether or not Scott thinks it's enough or not, things like that. And then the second topic we're going to hit on is President Trump's reciprocal tariffs. There's a new slew of them. So also the semiconductor strategy and what Howard Lutnick has to say about it. And then from there, our last topic we're going to talk about is the current real estate market trends. Just going to give you guys an update of where everything's at. And let's go ahead and take a look here. The Federal Reserve, right? So essentially, there's a discussion recently that Scott Bessent had, who is the U.S. Treasury Secretary for the Trump administration. So he hits on a couple of good points here. So he's going to talk about the impact of data quality on Fed decisions, interest rate recalibration, and market effects. And is the Fed essentially independent? There's a lot of argument about that. And then trade policy and he talks about some other emergency tariff laws that Trump is using, in his favor, to course correct what's going on in our economy today. So, yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at what he has to say and react.
With great pleasure, joining us as U.S. Treasury Secretary, Mr. Scott Bessent. Treasury Secretary, thank you very much. Can you fix this? Can you and E.J. Antoni, can you get E.J. in there to fix the Bureau of Labor Statistics before any more damage is done?
Well, Larry, good to be with you. And it's a real problem. As you said, if the Fed says they're data dependent and the data has been atrocious, then it seems like there's probably some makeup cuts in order here, or the size of this month's cut needs to be recalibrated. And sure, it could be fixed. Anything can be fixed. You just have to we had to establish that it was broken, which President Trump did. Now we have to go about fixing it. And it wasn't working well before, that kind of this lazy notion that they had dropped down to these low response rates, 30, 40% response rates, and they intuited the balance. Intuiting the balance is going from quantitative to qualitative. We need good empirical data, and it's not easy to get to, but you got to want to get there, and we want to get there. I think EJ is a great person to do it. I've known him for years. He's high integrity, data-driven, the ruthless truth pursuer.
Secretary, you mentioned recalibrate this month's meeting. It's an interesting point. Maybe they should go a half a point. And a lot of people think, very distinguished people think, that we ought to be at 3% Fed funds rate by the end of the year. We're at 4.5% now. Seems to me they're going to have to make some larger moves, in light of these numbers. But also, you've got market conditions, as I said. Dr. Copper's gone nowhere. Lumber prices are coming down. The curve is still inverted. Things of that sort. Maybe the Fed will recalibrate. Maybe they should.
Well, they should. Let's see if they will. That as John Maynard Keynes famously said, "Sir, when the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do?" And it turns out that we didn't have good facts.
Yes, right, absolutely.
All right, yeah. So essentially, you saw that, right? There's a lot of speculation that there's just a lot of bad data out there. This kind of ties back into what we were saying in the last episode. So the Fed chair is essentially making these decisions off of bad data, is what is being alleged. And, a lot of people are thinking that he did not cut enough. But time will tell. We'll see if this is the right decision or not. But yeah, we'll just have to wait it out and see what happens. But one thing looks a little bit certain: we might get a new Fed chair next year. So stay tuned for that, right? All right. So the next topic I did want to talk about here is like I said, the tariff revenue, and just what is true, what is not true, what is the real revenues coming in, things of that nature. But yeah, so essentially, Trump's tariffs and semiconductors, currently right now, Trump is doing a lot of reciprocal tariffs to India, China, and other countries, to the point where some of these countries are banding together and making a pact now. So it'll have an interesting, it'll be very interesting to see how that all unfolds. The next thing we're also going to talk about is what incentives Trump is essentially putting for semiconductor manufacturing here in the US. So that's going to be a big factor. And then the $1 trillion investment opportunities in tech and some transshipment levies. So let's take a look at this video that I believe, Howard Lutnick is going to cover some of these topics here. Going to touch on everything here, but yeah, he makes some very good points about how the tariffs are currently running. There's a lot of confusion about it, so he clears up a lot of that confusion. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look here.
Welcome back. President Trump's historic reciprocal tariffs kicking in at midnight, marking the biggest shift in the global economy in nearly a century. The president posted on Truth Social this morning, quote, "Tariffs are flowing into the USA at levels not thought even possible." The president also announcing a 50% tariff on exports from India beginning August 27th because of the country's continued purchase of Russian oil. President Trump criticizing India for ignoring the Ukraine conflict as New Delhi defends its energy needs, saying it's ready to pay a heavy price and that imports of oil will not stop. The White House reviewing similar penalties on other countries still buying Russian energy. Joining me now is U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Mr. Secretary, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for spending the time.
Oh, it's great fun to be with you, Maria.
And I know you've talked about non-tariff barriers in the past as the president is looking at tariffs as a way to get countries to come to the middle and, in fact, change certain ways. Will the president consider that kind of tariff retaliation on China as well if it continues to buy Russian oil?
I think the president said yesterday everything's on the table. He thinks of his role as the peacemaker in the world and the creator of opportunity for America, and he's going to use all the tools in his toolbox to use it, and he hasn't ruled anything out.
So the president signaled progress on a China deal, Secretary, this 90-day pause on tariffs set to expire August 12th. The president said he's getting very close to extending that trade truce, willing to meet with Xi Jinping this year if a deal is reached. Do you expect that deadline to be extended?
I do. I think we're going to leave that to the trade team and to the president to make those decisions. But it feels like likely that they're going to come to an agreement and extend that for another 90 days. But I'll leave it to that team.
I mean, it's incredible to me that you all are doing these negotiations with what we know is a bad actor. But I understand that you don't have much choice. We are very tied to the Chinese economy with so many supply chains there. 2 Chinese nationals charged in California for illegally shipping NVIDIA AI chips to China. They're accused of moving millions of dollars worth of cutting-edge H100 chips through Malaysia and Singapore in an effort to dodge U.S. export controls. Mr. Secretary, what is the plan to stop China from going around all of the tariffs and getting their products through other markets secretly?
Well, the key is, right now, semiconductors are primarily, like 90% of them are made in Taiwan. So yesterday was an epic day, right? The president over the last 3 days has met with the leaders of, or spoken to the leaders of all of the tech companies. He had Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, Tim Cook yesterday, both in his office talking, and he set tariffs to bring semiconductor manufacturing to America. It was beautiful to watch the president and his team talk to all the tech companies, get all of their input to set it right. And what he said was he won't charge tariffs while you're building in the country. But if you're not building in the country, 100% tariffs. So his objective is to get semiconductor manufacturing done here of our best technology, and that way we can control it the best.
Yeah.
That's the strategy. It's great for America, and President Trump is on it.
And you're right, Secretary. I mean, look at how we're so reliant. You just said it, 90% of the advanced semiconductor chips, these are chips we use in the military, made in Taiwan. The president threatened that 100% tariff on all chip imports in this push to get these companies to bring their supply chains here, but that takes time. Do you think the president will give some concessions to some of these companies and say, look, if I know that you're building a supply chain in the U.S., if I know that you're at least starting the process, because how long does it take to build a supply chain and a manufacturing plant in America? A couple of years, right?
You got it exactly right. So what the president said is if you commit to build in America during his term, and if you file it with the Commerce Department, and if your auditor oversees you building it all the way through, then he will allow you to import your chips while you're building without a tariff. But you have to be confirmed and overseen building in America, and what that's going to bring is $1 trillion. $1 trillion of semiconductor build in America launched by Donald Trump yesterday. I mean, talk about having fun in the Oval Office. I mean, this is historical.
It's incredible. It's next level. I mean, look, the pictures of the president with Tim Cook yesterday as Apple, announced this investment of $100 billion. The president highlighted Apple as an example of a company that would be spared significant levies after, they made that announcement of $100 billion investment in the U.S. So tell us about that in terms of what you're expecting. The tariff plan expected to be formally unveiled next week. In terms of the chip companies, are you expecting more investment? How much investment has come in so far? And do you expect specific companies to announce they're committing to build in America?
Here's the most fun statistic. AI CapEx spending, so spending on AI last quarter exceeded consumer spending for GDP. So we've got so much investment coming into AI that what the president's done is he's harnessed it. He says to Apple, you've got to build here. Meta, you've got to build here. NVIDIA, you've got to build here. TSMC, you've got to build here. I just said $2 trillion worth of investment right then. So the president is harnessing all of this investment coming into America. They're going to be building plants in America. TSMC announced $200 billion in Arizona, Micron $200 billion in Idaho and New York. I mean, this is huge, and it's going to be across America. So Donald Trump is grabbing it and bringing in all that investment into America. And basically what he said is, you've heard him say it time and again, if you build in America, you're not going to pay a tariff. And what he did is he said, I'll give you the leeway if you're committed to building in America, and only if you're committed to building in America, then he'll hold off on your tariff. But if you're not building in America, 100% tariff.
Yeah.
Pay or perform in America.
So I guess it was Scott Bessent who was on this program last week who said they're looking at some $300 billion in revenue from tariffs this year alone. How much revenue have you brought in so far just from tariffs, Secretary?
So last month it averaged just over 30 billion, and as of last night, midnight, the tariffs went up. I think we're going to be heading towards 50 billion a month in tariff revenue that no one's talked about except for the president. So think about 50 billion a month, and that's where we are now. And then you're going to get the semiconductors, you're going to get pharmaceuticals, you're going to get all sorts of additional tariff money coming in. And as the president says, this could continue to head towards and ultimately reach $1 trillion. I mean, these are amazing numbers for the United States of America, and no one's retaliating. Everybody understands you've got to sell to the American consumer. The American consumer is the most powerful factor in the earth for the economy, and Donald Trump is harnessing it for the benefit of the American people.
What can you tell us about this 40% transshipment levy?
So the idea is, you know, it's one thing to set a tariff. So we set a tariff on Vietnam of 20%, but that's for Vietnamese goods. If some other country, let's say China, wants to send things to Vietnam and have Vietnam then sell them to America, that comes with 40%. So if China wants to send stuff to America, let's just do it through China. Let's stop this nonsense of sending it through other countries. So that's the idea, which is if it's your country, you pay your tariff, and if it actually has significant content, like 30% from any other country, then it should be taxed at that other country's tariff.
Yeah.
And that's a higher tariff, obviously.
And
so that's the idea, and it's going to raise hundreds of billions of dollars for America.
It's incredible, and that's what I was just saying. What's the plan for stopping China? There you have it, the 40% transshipment levy. Secretary, it's great to see you. We so appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, sir.
Wow, yeah, so $50 billion is nothing to sneeze at. That's very good news for our economy, for our country, everything like that. To answer her earlier question about the, countries essentially sneaking around and importing things through other countries, on, I believe, Liberation Day. That was the whole purpose behind Trump's 10% tariffs across all the countries. A lot of people were questioning that, like, oh, what did these countries do to us? You want to have a blanket tariff starting basis, just to weed out different things like that, and then you can adjust them accordingly. So that's what he's been doing. He's been playing the long game with a lot of these countries, but he's coming and he's cutting a lot of great deals. I mean, he's giving a lot of incentives for these semiconductor companies to come and manufacture here in the U.S. That brings a lot of jobs and things like that. And the economy right now, we might not feel it, but in a year or two, I would say by the end of next year, probably we'll even start to feel some of these effects, fully on full throttle. So, yeah, very exciting stuff. Can't wait to see what happens there. So that brings us to our last and final topic for today's episode, and that is the real estate market. I just want to go ahead and give you guys an update on it. I've seen a lot of movement, especially now after this a rate cut just happened. Some people are selling their houses a little bit easier now. There's some buyers coming out into the market, investors as well, which is never a good thing. But yeah, so we're going to take a look at, some of the social media posts that, is happening out there, what to believe, what not to believe, what the actual understanding the actual market value of the housing market right now. What are the current appraisal rules that are out there, and the impact of motivated sellers, how you can negotiate the best price for you, things like that. And then some historical context from 2008, how it's similar, how that crash is similar to now, and will we ever see that kind of a crash ever again? Well, I will say that we're definitely way better than that, but there are some warning signs that I definitely want to take a look at. And ultimately, it comes to demand, supply and demand. So what is Trump doing right now to increase inventory in the housing market? Because that will definitely affect the prices in a good way if that happens. So without further ado, let's take a look at this Dave Ramsey video that he definitely breaks it all down for you guys, and then we'll go ahead and react.
Hey, Dave, can I ask you a quick real estate question real quick?
You can.
All right, so this might be bad math in my head. So let's say we're in Nashville, Tennessee, where the real estate has gone way up in value over the last 5 to 10 years, right?
Okay.
So let's say the house I bought back in 2020 is quote unquote worth double.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it on the market for double what I paid for it in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say because of the influx in inventory, I have to drop the price a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody comes in and bids $10,000 left. Mm-hmm. So it's just a little under double. I feel like on social media and whatever, the report is house prices are falling. But the way I look at it is I'm still on house money because it's worth almost double what I paid for it. And just because I take is that a bad way for me to look at the real estate investment?
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
No, it is house money, but it's different than that. The reason social media is wrong is for a different reason. Market value of a property, by definition, when I went to real estate, when I got my 4-year degree in real estate, I have a degree in real estate and finance. If you go to appraisal class and you go to take your real estate test, they teach you this. The definition of market value of a piece of real estate is what a willing buyer is able to give a willing seller and willing when neither are under duress. Okay? So, in other words, if you're getting foreclosed on, that's not a valid you can't use that sale when you're doing an appraisal.
Right.
Because it does not establish market value because one of the parties is under duress. Okay? If you've had a house if you bought another house and you're having to sell your house out of desperation because you shouldn't have bought the other house and now you got 2 house payments, one of the parties is under duress. Okay?
So they might sell it quote unquote below market value.
Yes.
Just to get rid of it.
Yes, because but it does not establish market value. So when someone says house prices are going down, they mean market values are going down. Market values have not gone down. But there are some parties, because the market has been sluggish, that are under duress.
Gotcha.
And are selling.
Because they may have leveraged a bunch of properties.
What you call a motivated seller for one reason or another. And house has been sitting on the market, and they lower the price below what the appraisal would be, what a willing buyer, but they're no longer without duress. They have duress, meaning there's a stress, they're in a stress situation.
Okay.
And so that doesn't establish market value. That doesn't establish what home prices are doing. Now, but if you're in a seller's market, then the buyers are under duress because they can't. That's when you get 83 offers on the house. If you're in a buyer's market, which we haven't seen in a long time because inventories have never kept up with demand, but if you're in a buyer's market, that means there's houses everywhere, and the buyers could come in and cherry pick what they want, and they can demand stuff from sellers because the sellers are under more stress, and that drives prices down. But we haven't seen that in 2 decades.
But even if market value went down 20%, I'm still up.
You're
in
still
my
on house
investment.
market, but house prices would have gone down if that was the case.
Correct. There you go.
So social media would be correct, but social media is a drama queen.
Correct.
It's not functioning on anything except, some 20-something-year-old living in his mother's basement having a little snowflake attack.
Correct.
And that's your social media. That's not got anything to do with the actual reality of what's happening in the market. That's just somebody pissed off because they feel like they got boxed out of the market because they're a barista after getting a PhD.
Or they're pissed off because they did some napkin math and looked at the wrong internet website and said, my house is worth $1.2 million. They get an offer for $700,000, and in their soul, they feel like they lost $500,000. When they may have bought the house.
If it was not worth 1.2.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. It was never worth that. And so is there actual market value? So if you're going to do an appraisal on a piece of residential real estate, you find 3 comparable sales within the last 90 days, comparable in area, comparable in attributes and comparable in square footage, and you adjust for square footage. If one's a 5-bedroom, one's a 4-bedroom, one's got 6 baths, one's got 4 baths, one's got a 5-car garage, one's got a 3-car garage. You adjust for the differences, and you do that, and then you take the average of those three after adjustments, and you have a residential appraisal. But the qualification is all three of those comparable sales cannot have had a buyer or a seller under duress. So you can't use 2 foreclosures in the neighborhood.
Gotcha. Okay.
As your comparable sale. Otherwise, you have an invalid appraisal.
What they do in 2008 when whole neighborhoods were getting wiped out?
Well, then you've got a new market. The market established that this neighborhood is foreclosure neighborhood.
Okay.
So it drove it down.
Yep.
Because everything in there was. So if you had like those townhouses and stuff where they, where these bogus investment deals, that's what will happen in 2008, and the mortgage bank securities, all that crap crashed, and so they started punting on these loans left and right, and so they end up with whole neighborhoods back. Now you got a complete reset on that neighborhood. But that's not a statement of real estate. That's a statement of that neighborhood. That neighborhood was full of investment real estate, 100% renters, and 100% of the investors, in air quotes, walked away.
Right. Yeah.
And so now you got to reset.
Okay.
And now we've got, what will people pay in that neighborhood that where neither are under duress? And that takes about a generation to get through that. Not a generation of people, but a generation of sales. Because the bank, when they take it back, they're under duress.
Okay.
So when the bank resells it, you can't count that. That's a real estate owned, an REO. You can't count that as your appraisal. And so that's what we're getting into. So no, that's what this thing I just said, go to our website. We track this stuff. There's 1,036,101 homes on the market right now. We know exactly how many are on the market. We know exactly when we're tracking all this stuff in detail, and you can go there and find the actual data. And your month over month over month, every month this year, median house price, which is the middle, not the average, it's the middle of house prices, is what a median is in statistics, has gone up every single month. It's not gone up much. It's gone up like $1,000 or $2,000.
But it's not crashing like everybody.
It's not going down.
Right.
Is the point. It's going up.
Yeah.
And there's good inventory, and there's good demand, and everybody's sitting around waiting to see if the Fed chairman's really going to get fired and if we're really going to see some interest rates adjusted. And once they get past that waiting game, probably about September, you may see this market take off like a dadgum hair on fire thing. September could be wild in terms of house prices going up again. But we've been telling you guys this out there, and it's proven to be true. I've been telling you this for 5 years. House prices are not going down. This is not a bubble. A bubble is when there is is when the prices have gone up faster than the demand. Demand has outpaced inventory. Demand is higher than supply. Every time you see that in economics, you see prices go up. It's a simple thing. It's 7th grade economics, if anybody taught economics in 7th grade anymore. But that's it. I mean, when there's a shortage of goods or services, the price goes up on those. When there's an overabundance of goods or services, the price goes down on those. It's very simple. And you really can't hardly figure out any time in economics, with an open market anyway, that gets violated. It just shows up that way every single time, given a half a minute. But, you get weird anomalies like COVID and that kind of stuff that hit a marketplace. It takes a little while to get the wrinkle out of the sheet on that. Like the supply chain stuff, same thing. But the problem is everybody's just so frustrated that wants a house and can't get one right now.
Sure.
And so they're throwing all these darts out there that they call truth to try to make themselves feel better about it. And it's just not, it doesn't change anything. You still have to do the math.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Dave Ramsey broke it down pretty perfectly right there. The buyers under duress, sellers under duress does not dictate the housing market value majority of the time. Right now what we're looking at is definitely not a 2008 because at that point you almost everyone was under duress, right? And because of that, it forced a market correction. And unless we see that again on a massive scale like that, the housing market is not going down. Home prices are not going down, like you're saying. Right now, we're at a stalemate. It's not happening right now. Yes, you can get some very good killer deals out there because I've seen $80,000 cuts, $100,000 cuts, right? But nothing significant to where it's going to be affordable for the buyer of today's market, right? The reason for that is everyone's hopeful. People will wait it out, people think things are going to pick back up again, and buyers going to come flooding the market again, and they're going to get all these offers left and right. And because we're in that stalemate, and there's no duress, there's no foreclosures happening or anything like that on a massive scale, that is what's causing the housing market to be kind of where it's at right now, like, at the stalemate that it's at. So, um, definitely we'll keep an eye on it. Probably next year, like Dave Ramsey was saying, is probably going to get hot again. So I would say now is as best of a time to buy than ever. Never wait, because you want to latch onto something now, get your roots into something now. So that way, when the housing market does pick up, and you have that equity built up, you can definitely have something. You can have some ownership when the market essentially picks back up again. So that's always a good thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode. I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys an update on a couple of things here. But yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as this helps this podcast grow. Thank you guys again for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate that. So let's go for 10K strong, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
So do you have a minute to connect? Let's Minect. That's right, guys. I'm officially on Minect now. You guys can go ahead and book me. I will be offering financial as well as career coaching based off of the Dave Ramsey principles, of course. So yeah, feel free to contact me, connect with me on Minect, and I look forward to speaking with each and every single one of you.